Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heads Up, the weekly webcast and podcast of the National Headache Foundation. I'm Dr. Lindsay Weitzel, migraine strategist, founder of the Facebook group Migraine Nation, and chronic daily migraine survivor. I am super excited to tell you that I am here today with Michael Leiner. Michael is the founder of Leiner Legal Disability Lawyers. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today, Lindsay?
I am good. Thanks for being here.
Happy
So Michael is a disability attorney who happens to experience cluster headache, and he represents individuals with headache disorders who seek disability and disability benefits. And so we are going to ask him questions today related to having a headache disorder and seeking disability. And I know there's so many people out there who need this information and are going to find this information valuable, whether you're currently in this process or perhaps you just need to know what to do in case you might be seeking disability in the future. So, Michael, please start for us. Can you just start by telling us a little bit about your health history and how it inspires you in your practice?
Sure, I'd love to, Lindsay, because I think that my health history is probably how I got to be who I am today as a lawyer. As a child, I had epilepsy, and I went to a special school for children who had ADHD. And I was inspired to do the type of work that I do and start a disability practice because I realized that I was fortunate to be able to live with my impairments and deal with them and build a great, be successful with them despite the challenges that I face. But an interesting story is that I actually experienced my first cluster period the very week that I started my own law firm.
Right.
So in 2013, I left a law firm that I had practiced with for 2 years out of law school, decided to hang a shingle and started my own law practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a cluster period. I had no idea what it was. As you'll hear many people that are having cluster headaches say, I thought I was dying.
Yes.
I immediately got treatment for him, but certainly it allows me to have greater empathy for a lot of my clients that are experiencing all types of headaches, but certainly cluster headaches in particular.
Right. I really wanted people to hear your story because it's so important. Not only do you represent people with disabilities and people with headache disorders who I don't know that a lot of lawyers out there have that experience, but you have cluster yourself, you experience cluster yourself. So I wanted to make sure that people understood that. But migraine, cluster, and other headache disorders are not currently listed in the Blue Book. Can you tell us what this means and why this is a challenge for those of us that may be disabled with these conditions and with various headache disorders?
Sure. So what the Blue Book is that you're referring to, it's called the Blue Book of Listed Impairments. It's a book that Social Security publishes. They update it periodically with many chapters in it that lists, the way that I put it in layman's terms, every bump, bruise, and ailment that could be wrong with somebody, or you would think. And it says, here's how severe this particular problem has to be in order for us to automatically find that somebody with this diagnosis meets our requirements for the disability benefits.
Right.
However, absent from the Blue Book of Listed Impairments are any headache conditions.
Right.
So whether it's, migraines, cluster, occipital neuralgia, any other type of, headache conditions that my clients experience, they cannot get disability benefits automatically based on, having certain qualifying conditions, in the Blue Book, which just creates a lot of hurdles to getting the benefits.
Right. So I should note that this is being recorded in December of 2020, and that those of us that go to Headache on the Hill, advocates are trying very hard to change this to get headache disorders listed in the Blue Book. So I would hope that at some point in the future, if someone's listening to this or seeing this, this would be changed. But as of right now, we are not in the Blue Book. So let's go ahead and make people aware of the things they need to be conscious of in case they ever need to apply for disability related to their headache disorder. What needs to be in their medical record? What do they need to keep track of, etc.?
I love that question. And the thing that I always want to tell people, and you started in the perfect place: documentation, documentation, documentation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I meet with a client for the first time, I always tell them, if you remember one thing from this meeting, remember that people don't get disability benefits because of what they tell me as their lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get disability benefits because of something that you write down on any of the paperwork that Social Security sends you on your application or any of the function reports.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get disability benefits because you testify a certain way under oath at your hearing.
Right.
You get disability benefits because of what you tell your doctor at your medical appointments.
Right.
That is the key. But it goes a step further than that. What I want to make sure that people are doing is not just telling their doctor about their symptoms, but they're also bringing it into perspective with, how it's affecting them throughout their day.
Mm-hmm.
So a headache is not a headache.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, Lindsay, is, just telling the doctor that I had 15 migraine headaches last month
Mm-hmm.
isn't particularly helpful in a medical record.
Right.
What is helpful is saying 8 of those headaches required me to spend 2 days in bed, where I was unable to, cook, clean, take care of my children, do activities of daily living that people can then, reason, well, that person wouldn't be able to show up to work on that day either.
Right.
Those are things that I think are particularly critical in a medical record, and helpful. Now that would be, lying down in bed. That would be pretty unique to a migraine headache, as opposed to like the type of headache that I suffer from, a cluster headache, which is I can't lie down.
Right.
I can't lie down with a cluster headache.
Right.
And, for me, or somebody who's suffering from cluster headaches, I want to bang my head against the wall when I'm having a cluster headache. And, it sounds funny when I say that, but if you're having a cluster headache, it's not funny at all.
Yes. Yes. People who have seen people experiencing cluster understand that. I hope, and a lot of people in our audience understand that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And that's why it's so exciting for me, because I speak to a lot of audiences at, conferences and seminars across the country, but it's great for me to finally, be able to speak to, my own community here today. But, when I am experiencing, when I'm going through a cluster period, I can't lie down. I can't do anything because there's that intense burning pain. I mean,
right.
I can't focus. I can't concentrate.
Right.
I thought that when I had my first cluster period, I thought that I was immediately going to have to close down the law firm that I had just opened and lay off the employees that I had just hired.
Right.
So, but speaking to your doctor about how it's affecting your daily functioning is what's so important.
Okay.
If you're working, saying to your doctor, I had to go home from work, 12 times last month, or if I had to go to my car and take naps. I had to, go lay down in the lunchroom, or whatever you have to do to, accommodate or make yourself comfortable. You need to be reporting that to your doctor. Now, here's something that's important. And, especially in the telehealth area, and you mentioned the date today, we're going through coronavirus right now. We're all adjusting to things like, my chart or whatever you're using to communicate, through typing to your physicians a lot more now. Because a lot of us are only seeing our neurologist or a pain management doctor every 3 months, every 6 months. It's not a doctor you're necessarily going to be seeing every month, every 2 months. The visits are going to be a lot, more sporadic than that. So type to them your symptoms. Let them know the symptoms that you're having through messaging them through the apps that are available online. Keep, a migraine buddy is an app that's out there, or just an old-fashioned diary. Anything that you can do to support your claim will be helpful to you in the long run.
I think this information is hugely important, and I want to capitalize on it because I am an example, even with what I do for a living, of an extremely quiet patient. I am getting better at this, but I spent my life, my doctors hardly knew even a fourth of my symptoms. And I didn't complain about the pain half as much as I needed to. They had no idea that I had an empty conference room I used to lie down in and hide at work. Nobody knew. And if anybody ever needed disability, I did, but I never, it didn't even occur to me to try, and it would have never worked because there was nothing in my chart. So I think this is so important because it is a lesson to even myself to be more vocal. I hide. I'm one of those hiding patients. And I think it's important to get it out there that you can't hide as a patient in case you ever need disability or anything. It's got to all be in your medical record. And people, I did exactly what you said. I used to go lay in my car too. And I hid how much I vomited, which was constantly. And gosh, I just didn't tell people. So don't be that patient. Don't make the mistake I made. Is there anything else and keeping track too? I think that how long do you think people need to keep track? Because I do know that this whole 1 to 10 pain scale can make people feel sicker if they have to focus on that all day. I wanted to bring that out. Is this something they have to do all the time, in your opinion, or is there just a certain amount of time?
I want to elaborate and go a little bit deeper than that.
Okay.
You can. Because if the chart that you're keeping only has 1 to 10 on it, I think I don't think that's deep enough. Okay. I want to know not just what the number was. I want to know what you had to do when your pain was that number. Okay. And I think that that's the problem. If I'm a Social Security judge or an adjudicator and I'm somebody who's deciding whether to grant benefits or not, there's a misconception that a lot of people have. And if you're somebody who's, suffering from headaches, maybe you've, witnessed this before when you told somebody else that you had a headache condition. And it's this perception that when to other people that, oh, you have a headache problem, well, just take an Advil, go back to what you were doing. Yeah. And except until you have a migraine headache, until you go through a cluster period, and then you understand it's not so simple. But when then, you're trying to apply for disability benefits, and the person who's deciding your case, deciding your financial future, which is going to, perhaps keep a roof over your head and food on your table, if that person has that bias in them, how long would I want to keep that diary for? How much information would I be tracking? I would track it as long as I could. I would track as much information as I could. Not to say that would, it almost sounds like a job, but it's as important as a job, because if I'm not working, then this is how I'm going to provide for myself. Right. And the documentation is going to be not only what gets you on the benefits to begin with, it's also going to help you keep the benefits. because there's not just an initial award of benefits, there's also the preservation of benefits.
Right.
And a lot of times what happens is, and I got a lot of calls from clients of mine who were awarded disability benefits. This is in the last few years in particular. People who were awarded benefits for a headache condition.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started getting letters from Social Security in the last few years saying, your records say you've improved, so we're taking away the benefits.
Oh my goodness.
What it was is that they didn't keep doing that.
They didn't keep doing
They didn't keep going to the doctor. They didn't keep, the shots that they were getting, the injections stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
The medications, they'd kind of run their course.
Right.
And so they kind of gave up on themselves. And not only that, they stopped even reporting that information to their providers. If you do that, the assumption that the United States government makes is that you got better.
Right.
And they will take that monthly check away from you.
Right.
And so you need to continually visit your doctor and report to them that information, because that's your job. Right.
That's a good way to put it. It's your job. It's how you're going to keep that check. So what advice do you have for individuals who are currently in the process of seeking disability for migraine, cluster, NDPH, or another headache disorder? There are many people I see who, I hate to even say it, but they, I see that they have been denied their first time, their second time, and I want to reach out to them. What do you have to say to them?
Don't give up, appeal. Okay. One thing that happens, the very first question you asked me this afternoon was about the Blue Book. Mm-hmm. And Social Security does not have a listing from that Blue Book for a headache condition. Right. Which makes it very easy on that initial determination, on the reconsideration determination, for Social Security to brush you aside and deny a case, for somebody who's applying with a headache condition. Appeal, appeal, appeal. Okay. There are a lot of people who do the type of work that I do that have dedicated their careers to helping people, not just with headaches, but with all types of mental and physical health conditions, apply and get the benefits that they need. If the people who were supposed to be receiving disability benefits were quickly approved for them, I would be a contracts attorney, I would be a workers' compensation attorney, I would be something else. The reason that I have an entire law firm doing nothing but helping people get disability benefits is because they turn people down, like you watching this video right now, listening to this podcast today, that shouldn't be turned down. Right. So appeal, get help, improve the documentation. Okay. Right. So that's one thing. Other important things to do, and I think I just said it, is, what can you do to improve the documentation? Are you telling your doctors enough information? Are you like you were, Lindsay? Are you maybe hiding and not telling the doctors enough because you're, afraid of what they might tell you? There shouldn't be shame in reporting. This isn't about getting disability. This is about getting better. This is about living. Yeah. This is about, you tell them all that information, not so that you can get a check, but so you can live your life and get your life back. Right. I want my clients not just to get them money, I want to see them improve. Right. But if they're not telling their doctors the signs and symptoms that they're having, how could their neurologist ever help them? Yeah. They're robbing themselves of the ability to live.
It's very true. I learned a lot in talking to you. I learned a lot through some processes I've been through recently, that I need to actually talk about my symptoms. And so if you're one of those patients, start talking about your symptoms. It's okay. But I think a lot of us, especially people my age, who, were seeking help back before there was headache medicine or pain medicine, have a hard time talking about our migraine and our chronic pain. And it's a little bit harder for us. So this is the lesson, to start talking about it to your doctor, get it in your medical record. And this was such an important topic, and I'm so glad you were here. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Don't give up, because so many people do. Don't give up on yourself. You know, I wish that I can't tell you how many people there are that come to me having been turned down by Social Security 10 times.
Right.
And I look at them and say, I wish you had called me 6 years ago, because we could have figured this out together. And there's just little tips, little things that we can do to help people that, you know, can be done. And I really think if people just believed in the power of communication and, you know, talking to their doctors, documenting what's going on, they can live their lives better, fuller, and they can hopefully get a better outcome if they get to the point where they realize they need to apply for disability benefits.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for being here. Thank you for answering all those questions. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this week on Heads Up. Please join us again next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.